Hey there friends, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to darken the backgrounds of your photos using Affinity. So to get started, I'm going to quickly import or open a raw photo that I've taken before. So this is a photo that I tend to use a lot just because it's a great demonstration tool. So this is a photo that I favor a lot just because I'm very fond of the way it is framed and the way the subject stands out. So to get started, let's go ahead and go to masks. So there are two ways to do this. You can do it in the developer studio. You can also do it in the Affinity Retouch Studio or color grading studio. So you can choose which one did you rather work with, but I would suggest working with the developer studio first because this is dedicated to editing raw files and the tools that you have are a lot more akin to something like Lightroom if that's what you're used to. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly add a new mask. In this case, I'm going to click on Object Selection Mask, and it's going to analyze the picture just a little bit. So one thing that I really like about Affinity as well is that machine learning tools or machine learning power tools are totally free, unlike in the Adobe suite. So now that that's done analyzing, the mouse over the background. As you can see, it has already identified the subject. So this might not be perfect at first, but it's really easy to adjust it. So I'm going to press B on my keyboard to select the brush tool, and I'm just going to brush over the parts that didn't get selected. So if you aren't familiar with masks, what they are is they're basically like selections and whatever changes you make to the properties or the any adjustments that you make to the image will only be applied on that particular mask. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to quickly finish up cleaning up the mask just by brushing over the portions that didn't get properly selected. So if you're having any trouble, feel free to brush over it in generous strokes and don't worry about painting over the foreground or the subject because you can always erase the overlap later. So I'm going to zoom in, press E on my keyboard to select the eraser tool, and I'm just going to reduce the brush size a little bit. And by doing so, we get much more control over what is being selected. Like so. We're just gonna brush around the hand very, very gently. And this is useful to have the split view so that you can properly see what areas are part of the foreground and what areas are part of the background. Just a bit more. That looks good to me. Maybe clean up the edge here just a little bit. I'm gonna scroll up a bit. Press V on my keyboard to bring up the brush tool and reduce the size. That way I get to paint over this smaller area right here. So it does take a little bit of practice and some getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it should be no deal to do this again in the future. I'd say that's pretty good. Maybe I'll reduce the softness even more, bring it all the way down to maybe 3%, paint over this area here. So the reason why I like using a soft brush is because that will allow us to have a more gradual transition and it makes the image a lot softer on the eyes. Quickly go over this area like so. And now that that's done, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to start editing I'm going to start making adjustments to the photo itself. So make sure that the proper mask is selected. Go back to your basic tab and you can start shifting the exposure of the background a bit down. So as you can see, I lowered the exposure in the background and now our subject stands out a lot more. Although right here, there's some awkward areas between the background and the subject. So you can go ahead and select your brush tool and just paint over it as you did earlier. So in this case, I have show mask set to off. That way I get to see the actual image instead of just the layer overlay. I'm going to select this area as well, double checking that I have the right portions selected. There we go. Now I'm going to use the eraser tool just to erase some of the parts that got overly darkened, like the hair, which originally is part of the foreground or the subject. There we go. So maybe I'll add one last darker section here, but overall it seems about finished. And there we go. So the difference between the before and after is pretty much night and day. As you can see in the after portion, the subject is able to stand out from the background a lot more thanks to the lighting contrast. And now that we've finished darkening the background, I can now develop the photo and export it, or maybe even add some other changes in the color grading or the retouching studios available in Affinity. That's pretty much it for this video though. I hope I was able to teach you something new and something useful. And make sure to subscribe if you'd like to stay updated with new tutorials just like this one.